everyone. This is Jason Tucker, and this is WP Water Cooler, episode number 326.
What?
This particular topic is brought to you by Desktop Server Maker of ServerPress.
And us.
And us. Make sure you go to their website over at serverpress.com where you can learn about all the cool stuff that they have going on there. They do a thing called WP Site Sync. They just came out with some really cool stuff with it. So feel free to go take a look at that over at serverpress.com.
They also wish me a happy birthday on Twitter. It's so nice when they do that. It makes me feel so special.
So today's topic, we're going to be discussing premium plugins go bad. But before we do that, let's go around the room real quick.
Plugins go bad.
And get everyone introduced.
Premium plugins go bad.
Is it when or is it how? How premium plugins go bad?
Oh,
it's when or where premium plugins go bad.
Why?
Manny, start us off. Tell us about yourself.
Was the first one?
Yeah, Manny, go for it. Tell us about yourself.
Okay, I'm Manny, originally from Brazil, living in Las Vegas. I'm a co-organizer of WordCamp Las Vegas that is going to happen in September, first week of September. We are looking for sponsors, so please support the community.
You got that graffiti logo going on.
Yeah, you like it? That's cool, huh?
It's like the same as WordCamp Europe's kind of. There's a little bit of trend there.
Yeah, they are copycatting us.
Totally.
So. Yeah, I co-organize also the WooCommerce meetup here in Las Vegas. We actually had one last night. It was really cool. I build websites mainly in WordPress. I do full stack and
WordPress.
If you ever come to Las Vegas, join our meetups. There is a bunch of great meetups here in town.
Awesome, good to have you on, Manny.
That's totally what people want to do when they go to Vegas.
Oh yeah, Matt came to our meetup.
Okay, that may be what Matt wants to do when he goes to Vegas. Then it's a write-off.
So how about you tell us about yourself?
Who am I anyway? Hi, my name is Say Reed. I make WordPress, teach WordPress, preach WordPress on Say Reed Media, at Say Reed Media, on all the things. Isn't it ironic? Don't you think? A little too ironic.
Yeah, I really do think.
Prosper, how about you? Tell us about yourself.
Hey everybody, I'm Jason Cosper, aka Kurt Autoloader, here with WP Water Cooler News. You hear it first.
Nice.
You hear it first, and then you tell us. That's
Val, how about you? Tell us about yourself.
Hey, my name is Val. I'm doing social media strategy for Sucuri, the security company. And I'm getting ready now for WordCamp Europe as a lead photographer. So we're going to have a lot of photographers roaming those, hallways and rooms, making sure the sessions get photographed and videographed properly.
Where are you based, Val?
I live in Transylvania, because if I say Romania, most people will not know what it is. But if I say Transylvania and I say no bite marks, then people will know. And after this, I gotta go and put my dragon.
Sleep in a coffin.
If you're the one with no bite marks in Transylvania, you know what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Steve, how about you?
Hashtag stereotypes.
I'm Steve Zingit. I'm the founder of Zeek Interactive. I run the OC WordPress meetup, which is like 10,000 spoons when all you need is a knife.
I'm Jason Tucker. You can find me over at Jason Tucker on Twitter. My website is jasontucker.blog. I do this show as well as another show, WP Blab. Feel free to go take a look at that. We do social media marketing, all that fun stuff about WordPress. So feel free to go take a look at that at wpwatercooler.com/WPBlab. All right. So when and how?
Bring it.
Premium
plugins. Why?
Bring it.
And why?
And why?
And what?
How many?
What premium plugins go bad? Hashtag all of them.
Is this just limited to premium plugins, or was that for some SEO juice? Because this is really all plugins.
I want to point something out here. So when we started, this is why I wanted to talk about this so badly. When we started Water Cooler, y'all, well, not you who weren't on here, but you two specifically, Steve and Jason, gave me so much crap about how I hard coded everything and how I basically rolled all my own solutions to stuff. Basically, I was building plugins within things and whatnot. And then Right. So then the trend has been like, okay, don't do that anymore. Get all these plugins and then load yourself up. And then now it's like, what?
None of my advice was never load yourself up.
No.
That was not my advice.
Okay, load yourself up is not the right thing, but you use premium plugins, blah, 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 blah.
No.
And now the pendulum is swinging back the other direction. And all I have to say is validation.
No, you're just
life has a funny way of sneaking up on you.
You live, you learn. That's all.
Say just wants everybody to go back to 4mail, and they want to use that 4mail.pl file so that you can put it in your CGI bin and you can have that Perl script run that will send
That was only one site.
I do not agree. I do not agree with your assessment that I gave the advice. Just load up a whole bunch of premium
Don't make
plugins.
me review tapes.
I did not do that.
Don't make me go back to the tape.
Let's go back to episode 56, where Steve said use Gravity Forms.
No, that's the episode where you introduced the floppy disk.
We're that old. Anyway, point is, that was always the problem, right? It's this dependency. Back in the day, those plugins were way less. There weren't nearly as many of them. The solutions weren't there, and they were less reliable because they weren't these huge commercial enterprises built around plugins.
I would actually argue that plugins are less reliable now.
I would agree with you.
Yeah.
You go on.
And do you think that's because of the fact that there's so many libraries that are being used that you're just essentially going like, oh, I need this one little function out of a library. I'll throw all that library into my code.
I think it has to do with how saturated the plugin repo is, right? So there's so many plugins, right? And there's a big number on top of the repo that shows how many plugins are in the repo, right? And in addition to that, there's all the premium plugins. I argue that that's not a good thing. Right.
It's not. Also, a lot of those are just totally dead.
Right, but more plugins does not equal better quality stuff.
55,144
form plugins. Right.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So
how many of them have the word ninja in it?
Here's how this topic came about. I'm working with a client that is using a plugin called Infused Woo. Is anybody familiar with this plugin?
No, but I'm assuming it talks to WooCommerce.
So is this for selling essential oils? Is that what this is?
It's not. It's for connecting WooCommerce to Infusionsoft, right? That's what it does.
There's your problem right there. No, just kidding.
Right. And so two very complex systems, right? And this is supposed to manage the API between WooCommerce and Infusionsoft.
And it's like you have one job.
That's right.
Yeah.
They had one job. Well, here's what happened. Here's what we discovered this week. All of the sites on our we have several sites that we're running for this client, and they were all running slow. And we just kept digging until we finally found that Infusionsoft was the culprit. We found it in our Sentry reports. We use Sentry.io for PHP debugging. We found it in our Sentry report.
See last week's episode for more on that.
Yeah, and what I found digging into this plugin is Infusionsoft, because they're a premium plugin, and because they don't do the same version tracking as plugins that are in. I'm sorry, Infused Woo doesn't do the same version tracking as plugins that are in the WordPress repo. They wrote their own version tracker, right? And so they embedded their own little version tracker to let you know as a notification in the dashboard that the plugin's out of date, right? Well, they wrote it wrong. And so what they did is they wrote it so that it goes and checks a very simple script on their server that shows the current version. That's all this function is supposed to do.
One job.
Except what they did is they wrote it so that it does that on every single page load, front end and back end of the website.
Oh wow. That's intense.
Oops. And so think about the scale of that, right? All the people that have this plugin installed, right? All the sites that are loading this plugin, right, are hitting this server. Well, they crashed their own server, right? So they crashed their own internal system for checking versions because they were calling their server too often, right? And so it was causing a timeout, right? And so that timeout was about 5 seconds. and it was causing page load of an extra 5 seconds per page unnecessarily throughout our entire site.
So they were their own bully and basically just going, stop DDoSing yourself. Stop DDoSing yourself. Stop DDoSing
Yes.
yourself."
Yes. And so they released a patch, right? I found it. I forked the plugin, killed the script because my client still needs this plugin. So I just killed that part of the script. So I took out the version tracker. Well, they clearly found the issue.
Tell them about it.
I did. Yeah. So I've been very active on their Zendesk.
Best.
Yeah. And so I told them about it. And so they released a patch. And what they did in this patch is made it so it only checks every half hour instead of every page load, right? Right. Which, again, I don't understand why they need to check more than once a day, once a week, once a month, maybe.
When you load the plugins page to go, if you're looking, like
anything along those lines. Here's the problem: is they're still calling the same URL, right, for the version tracker, right? So all those people who haven't updated their plugin to the latest version are still hitting that server. So they're still calling that same server. So even though they've changed it to every half hour, there's still a timeout every half hour, right? So there's still that site slowness every half hour.
What do you call a fix that's not a fix?
A DDoS.
You call it ironic.
I really do think.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
That is a jagged little pill, indeed.
Well, think about it. If they have thousands of installations and everybody's hitting the same server, that is essentially a DDoS. You know, that's the same effects.
It's a self-inflicted one. That's just okay. It's not funny because this is your client and this is a lot of other clients. And the people who use Infusionsoft are generally larger scale enterprises in general. Like it's not really like, a small scale program. So solution. So that means that there's a lot of struggling web devs digging endlessly trying to figure out what the hell the problem is.
I have personally never come across somebody who's starting up and says, oh yeah, we're looking at Infusionsoft. Infusionsoft is the solution you pick when you have a large number of users. And
that's what I'm saying. Exactly. So this is like some large scale stuff, and they are going to have their, like, I'm just surprised that you're like, how long was that going on for? Like
weeks
since they introduced the plugin, or was it like a new?
I haven't gone there yet. Right. I just, at this point, I mean, it's just happened. So I just had to fix the slowness first. I mean, it was noticeably slow throughout the entire network. Like it was deathly slow.
Well, so, I mean, this is part of the problem, right? This dependence upon, I mean, just to broaden it up a little beyond this specific issue of one plugin in this specific configuration, this is the issue, right? You create this dependence on these plugins. We talked about this a couple episodes ago, where you are now not just dependent on WordPress and your host and, the theme and whatever else you've got going on. Now you've got basically like this, I guess call a stack, right? Of all these plugins, from all these different developers of different skill sets and different, approaches and different approaches towards updating that are now all these, different things coming into your site.
Well, and so if I'm a site that's relying on this plugin, because it's important, right? This is basically tracking orders from WooCommerce into your CRM, right? That's what this plugin is doing, right? So that's an important function. The alternatives are replace it with Zapier, right? Which is not great, or get your developer to just recreate the functionality and hook into the Infusionsoft APIs. Also not great. There aren't great solutions, and the migration off of this plugin is not cheap or quick or easy.
Well, I mean, the Zapier, whatever the hell you want to call it, is still a dependence on them working. There's been plenty of instances where their Zaps stopped working, and you didn't even get notified that they stopped working. I don't know that that's happened in a while, but it has happened. And then if you have a roll your own approach, and the Woo changes something or Infusionsoft changes something, then you have to go back and rebuild everything.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's all turns out we're going to be employed forever. That's really
well, and so that's the issue here. I mean, we're talking about a big it's a big system, right, with a lot of developers in it, and in this particular case, most likely we're talking about a developer that is really not thinking about the big picture that we just described on this call on this podcast,
and
right?
So right there,
right. But a developer is just thinking about, okay, how do I get versions working right outside of the WordPress repo? So they put in what they thought was a little solution, and now it's a big problem, right? And it's not something you just flip a switch and fix, right? This is going to be there until everybody's updated their Infused Woo plugin, right? This is a big deal.
But also, like that also presents itself into not only a communication with the users problem, because now it's like you have to communicate to all the users that they need to update without alarming them. It also becomes a PR issue and a marketing issue, because now you're like, whoops, we made a mistake. Or you just say,
it could be a security issue as well.
Exactly. And a security issue, it touches everything.
You got a scalability issue, right? You've got all kinds of issues.
Yeah. Now, that URL could get hacked that they're testing, and it could go back and inject into that site if somebody was clever enough to make that happen.
That's why whenever I'm developing a new plugin or something, or a new functionality, and the beauty of open source is this: we have the access of source code. I like to take a look at how Pippin is doing this kind of stuff. So how Pippin does do version control on his software, on his things. You can go there and read the code, right? His code. Right.
But Manny, you and we do the same stuff. We do reviews for all of our plugins for our clients before we install them. But we're not the norm in the WordPress ecosystem, right? The norm is somebody just sees a piece of functionality that they want and they install a plugin. That's the norm.
Nice, let's install it.
That's right.
Yeah. For developers, I highly recommend this session. I think it was WordCamp San Diego 2016. Where Pippin did AMA for devs. That was one of the best WordCamp videos ever, where he got bombarded by questions by developers how to do things the right way, So this is a really good one.
I'll add that to the show notes.
Yeah.
And in no way am I suggesting that Infused Woo did anything malicious, right? This wasn't a developer being malicious in any way, and Infused Woo wasn't being evil, right? It's just a mistake.
Yeah.
Well, this is also part of the myopic viewpoint. Myopia.
It's easy for you to say.
Totally not. The really narrow focus. There we go. Of developers when they're working on their problem, because it's like what you just said, that developer is sitting behind their desk and they're given a problem and they just have to solve that little piece of the problem, and not thinking about how that interacts with the sites or any of that. They're not paid to do that. They're not paid to think, they're paid to solve that one problem. And I think that it's that kind of isolated approach, but that's happening everywhere, like in developer offices across the board.
You need a solution architect before the developers start working on code. You need the architect to go in there and say, look, we have these vetted plugins or themes or whatever. We have this way of coding, and boom.
And Val, that's a great point. But we're talking about 55,000 plugins in the repo. Most of these plugins, even the premium ones, are two guys in a bedroom or a garage somewhere, right? They don't have the budget for a solution.
That's a different kind of plugin. I don't think they put those.
They have time to email out to companies like ours, for example. We get everyday emails from plugin developers saying, "Can you please review my code for security, for potential risks?" So if you put a plugin up there, you should be responsible for the people getting hacked or not because of your code. It's not okay to just say, "Oh, this site is hacked. Oh, I'm not going to go to the site anymore."
What does responsible mean in that case? Like responsible, like financially liable, like responsible to fix it?
You're using a free plugin, but still you're responsible for the
integrity. This is not a free plugin.
Yeah, you're not always
using
a free plugin. No.
Well, then yes, you should be financially.
Up to what cost, right?
Don't say those things in America, man.
Yeah, seriously. Say's got
suing some people.
Say's got an interesting point. This is a plugin that does affect the bottom line, right? This does affect it affects reporting. It affects how they communicate out with their customers, right?
It affects what marketing can do. If
Would
someone was missed off of out of the workflow because something didn't connect, like now that customer base is like upset. So they have to, marketing has to figure out why these people have not gotten this information, and it's a disaster.
So let me switch gears a second, because I ran into two very similar issues on the same project this week, right? And the other issue is with WooCommerce Admin. Has anybody played with WooCommerce Admin?
You're earning your keep this week, huh?
I am. I definitely am. So WooCommerce Admin is in beta, right? And so I don't expect the plugin to work, right? And so it says very clearly on the WooCommerce Admin page, do not install this on a production site, right? However, WooCommerce turned on something this week or in the past couple of weeks that shows you a notification in your dashboard that says, have you tried WooCommerce Admin? Right? And not only does it say you tried it, it gives you a way to install it and activate it right in the top of the dashboard.
I'm actually not faking that one. That one's real. That's like,
and so
oh no.
While it's not production site ready, it is asking people to install it. And if you go to the plugin page for
that's
WooCommerce
so Gutenberg.
Admin, oh yeah. If you go to the plugin page for WooCommerce Admin, there are over 100,000 active installs of this plugin.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
That's not production ready, and it says
it's not. And so the plugin page says do not run this on a production site, but it shows up on your production site and asks you to install it. Okay. So I consider that.
I don't. That's malevolent.
I consider that.
But this should be reported to them.
Malicious. Malevolent?
Well, so here's the problem. So I actually discovered a critical issue inside of WooCommerce Admin, right? And so it seems like an edge case, but it's not. And so what I was doing is I installed it. I was looking at the WooCommerce legacy reports versus WooCommerce Admin, which is a new reporting tool, and the numbers were not matching. And I actually tracked it down. And so what's happening is
Sherlock Steve this week.
Yeah. When you have an order that has more than one coupon applied to it, it actually is counting that order twice. Actually, it counts that order with as many coupons as you have attached to that order, right? And so if you have, right, and so let's say you have one order that's in the system for $100, and you have another order that is in the system for $100, but it's got 2 coupons applied to it, and it's really $50, right? It's not going to show $150 total in your gross sales.
But
it's going to show
200.
It's going to show 200, right? Because it counts that $50 order twice, and it's doing it because of the way that they just messed up their joins in a SQL query. I literally tracked it down to the line.
Oh
they messed up their join.
God.
And so,
did you manage to tell them to?
I did, absolutely. I opened up a ticket on this. It seems like an edge case. It's not. This happens more often than not. And with the sites that I'm working on, we were able to see this on every single site. So
how did they
numbers
that? How do they retroactively fix that even?
The numbers are too big, right? So again,
people are going to be disappointed.
I opened up a ticket that was 3 days ago. There's been no.
So you mean this is not my sales?
I feel like on this one, I was just talking into a vacuum.
That's when you hit the Twitter. But like at that point, it's like, whose responsibility is it to raise the alarm about this stuff? You know what I mean? Like you're doing something that is fixing the program for $1 million company.
About Steve, but like as if Steve were to write this code himself. I mean, you still have to kind of look at this from that perspective that you're the one that implemented this code, right, Steve? So that should have been tested.
I did not implement this code on a production site.
Oh no, but I know, but like the person who would have implemented that code on the site, shouldn't they have tested that to make sure that the coupon system actually worked?
That's a really obscure thing to test, like for reals. Do adding 2 coupons double my sales? Like, who is even going to think to make that test?
And again, nobody.
That's
nobody.
Obscure AF.
People assume they buy,
but it's there. Sorry, go ahead, Val.
I just want to say that I think people assume, psychologically, when you pay money and you buy a premium plugin, automatically you're going to have less expectations of errors, security issues, just because, hey, I'm paying money, I'm sort of protected in a way.
Right.
But then
this
you're
is like
not.
a professional product. This
Yeah.
is what I'm always telling my clients is that everyone thinks the internet is so stable and like, it's like, oh, this just works and everything. And I'm like, yeah, one freaking semicolon and the whole thing just blah.
Go ahead, Casper.
Weirdly, as somebody who has some free plugins available in the repo, they actually expect the exact same thing on free plugins. They expect things to work flawlessly, to be perfect. And the second they find a bug, for it to be fixed, no matter how thin the person who is writing the code is stretched, basically.
Yeah, and I think demand would probably be the better word, and indignant that it's not being fixed at that moment. And of course, they don't know what's wrong. They're not coming like Steve with like here's the problem I found in your join code, but it's not even that. It's like, fix this problem, and they can't even give you screenshots or tell you what the problem is.
Yeah, my site don't work.
Fix it. It's broken.
Yeah, I think I always tell at our meetups for people to support the people that do the free plugins to them. Donate something, pay them coffee or something. And even though sometimes this plugin only does 90% of what I want, give this guy $100 and he may be able to do whatever 100% what you want,
Yeah.
And so,
but people
I
really
just want to
don't
clarify
think about it that way. They don't understand the way that the fact that Casper's over here, he's that's not even his job to make a plugin or whatever, and he's the guy managing and creating this plugin. Like that awareness is like just not there. It's not present.
I just want to clarify that WooCommerce Admin and WooCommerce are free, right? Those are free plugins, but those are supporting a huge ecosystem and lots of people's businesses. I mean, people are running their businesses on WooCommerce, and
WooCommerce
this is the next
specifically
yes
this plugin.
This is the next generation of the reporting tool for WooCommerce.
Mm-hmm. By the way, Jason, Steve, congratulations on the issue. But was so I just read it. It's like, man, you gave like every single detail.
Oh yeah,
to how to do it. That's awesome, man. Because not everybody does that.
Say,
fix it.
I told them go to this line and fix this thing.
And they've ignored you for 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. There are some responses.
Well, to be fair,
the responses are me.
To be fair, they were fixing a problem where in the WooCommerce Admin plugin, if you stayed on one of the reporting pages over the matter of a few hours, it would send requests back to the API over and over and over again. I think someone reported that there were over 14,000 requests back to the API after just leaving a tab open for 2 or 3 hours. Yeah.
Awesome. Wow. Now, again, I'm not expecting somebody to jump immediately on the thing that I reported, right? But my point in bringing this up is that my worry is that
we're all gonna die.
It's installed on over 100,000 sites already, right? And it's not production ready.
And they're promoting it.
Yes, that's a big deal.
I mean, that's kind of what it is. It's not like some of the plugins that are in there where it's just like it's not promoted and it's for devs only and
the notification doesn't say, have you tried this plugin? Do not do this on a production site. It just, have you tried this?
That's so good. It really is very Gutenberg.
Gutenberg I think is the word you're looking for. Yeah. But, I mean, it's like a black fly in your Chardonnay. Seriously.
It's like a death row pardon. 2 minutes too late. It really is. That's so ironic.
You guys crack me up.
I don't mean to pick you apart, you see, but I can't help it. Slap me with a splintered ruler.
We had some other stuff to talk about regarding WooCommerce stuff, and I think I myself don't do any WooCommerce work. But I'm very much so interested in how you guys are navigating these waters and to talk about it.
WooCommerce is important because WooCommerce is the main thing holding up WordPress in comparison to Shopify. And that is a ever crumbling bridge that is like WooCommerce has to be strong. It has to be like flawless. And that is because it is literally that one-to-one solution. And that's why people are making the switch, because of, you know, weird stuff like this. And, you know, that's not to say that Shopify doesn't have those issues, but they're just, they're marketed differently, right? Because it's all in one, and it's, you know, a thing, you don't have to do it yourself.
Right.
But I mean, I'm sure they have problems, you know, but this WooCommerce is important because of that specifically, more important than some of the other premium plugins.
And the equivalent of what we're talking about in the WooCommerce ecosystem is the WooCommerce add-on store. And maybe that's a topic for a different water cooler episode.
You know how I do statistics on WooCommerce. I export all the data to another table, and I remap it in a different way, and then I do my own queries on that, because the serial is the way that, and now it's changed a little bit, and I know we are out of time, but that's what I did, and then it works flawless because I have the data the way that I want queries. You know, I want to run my queries.
Let's get Woo next week. Let's go Woo.
Let's do it.
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
We have our topic
about some WooCommerce.
Jason, you're supposed to say something about the WooCommerce and CBD stuff.
No, that's next week.
We're out of time.
All right, we'll get back around to it. So thank you very much, folks, for coming on and hanging out with us on the show. We really appreciate it. Go over to our website at wpwatercooler.com/subscribe, where you can learn how to subscribe to this stuff. Talk to y'all later. You have a good one.
Bye.